Okay, we have in front of us is two sections of a sikha from two different sections from two different sikhas of the year Sukkot Tafshim Memches 1988. I think I mentioned this for Brengans that if you really want to appreciate the degree of the Rebbe's shturim for HAKHEL, is go through the Fabrengens, go through the sikhas of Tishrei Tafshim Memches, starting from Chayel, maybe even earlier, but for sure from Chayel, all the way through Zayin Cheshin and beyond. Every sikha is just HAKHEL, 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 and progressively the Rebbe's language got stronger and stronger. So you read it, it's very difficult to not get a fire lit under yourself. You hear the Rebbe's language in words as he expresses what he wants and how much he wants it and so on. So these are two samplings of that. Just a little background, since the rabbi does a story every day and I haven't done a story all week. Actually, my father asked me if I did any stories. So, sorry. Anyway, so just some background / story. Sukkot Fabrengens and talks by the Rebbe. So in the early years, the Rebbe did Fabreng quite a bit actually in the Sukkah, starting already from the times of the Fidik Rebbe. The Fidik Rebbe had an organization called Igo Talmidei Minim. And one of the projects was every year, Sukkot, one day Chol HaMoed, they invited all the Bachram from yeshivas, not just from Lubavitch, from Temchat Minim, not just from Lubavitch yeshiva, from the other yeshivas in the area, which wasn't that many in those years, in the early 40s, 3, 4 yeshivas, whatever it was. They were all invited for a day of learning in 7-7. And everybody would give shiurim. Rabbi Feinstein would give shiurim, this one would give shiurim, everybody would give shiurim. At the end of the day, the Rebbe would Fabreng. Our Rebbe, I mean, the Rebbe's son-in-law at the time, the Ramash, Fabreng. And the Rebbe actually had a whole intention to publish his writings from there. We have notes from one of them, Shnayim Meuchsin. The Rishim of Shnayim Meuchsin was delivered at that one of those Fabrengens. It was called Yagdel Torah. This name Yagdel Torah, it seems, is the Rebbe's name for Siddush and Nigla. Yeah. Later, the Rebbe chose the same name, Yagdel Torah, for a publication that he urged the library to publish, and they published in 4 or 5 volumes, 6 volumes, but the rabbi has them in his office. I don't think they're in print anymore. And the Yagdel Torah was like a periodical that was meant to publish Nigla manuscripts of Chabad for the world to see. This is something that we spoke about quite a few times, is Chabad Nigla not being publicized enough. Off topic. Anyway, the point is that that was the beginning Fabrenging on Sukkot for the yeshivas back before they were the Fidik was alive, and then in later years, once they became Rebbe, they continued Fabrenging in the Sukkah. Second day Sukkot, they were Fabrenged in the Sukkah with washed, gave kosher bracha in the Sukkah. During the week, also they were Fabrenged in the Sukkah. They were even Fabrenged once, washed and Fabrenged for public school kids from Ali's time. There's beautiful pictures of it. They were speaking Yiddish, like a whole Sikha. There's a bunch of kids from public schools. You can hear the background from the Sikha there. There's chattering, and then whatever. HAKHEL, whatever it is, translates the Sikha. But it stopped one year because I think it was Lamed or Lamed Aleph, because it was weak wooden benches. And there was a bench that broke in the middle of the Fabrengen and apparently pulverized Rabbi Marlowe's knee or leg or something. Which completely destroyed his leg. And the incredible part of the story is the man didn't say a word until the sikha was over. So 15 minutes, 20 minutes, the man sitting there with a completely shattered leg, bones especially shattered, and did not say a word. And once they were finished speaking, he said something they called I don't know if that's all existed, they called an ambulance. And they took that rather personally, and the Fabrengens in the Sukkah stopped. And Sukkot by the Rebbe was calmer, and there was no Sukkot, so there was a Fabrengen. Dancing was started in the 80s, and then it was 10 years, it was kind of calm. Sukkot, the rest of the story goes, I think, that he had one operation, another operation. At one point, I think his wife asked the Rebbe, need a bracha for this next operation. And Rebbe said that tell him to learn Dr. B'Shulchan Aruch again, and he'll be good. Dr. B'Shulchan Aruch again, he didn't need any operation. As you've seen pictures of videos of him, he walked around with no cane, no nothing. The fact that he even had a leg was a miracle. In later years, Rebbe began to say a sikh every single night. First, the dancing started. Everyone spoke about dancing, and then, like, it spontaneously, people responded to Rebbe dancing, Rebbe's request for dancing. That took off, and then every night, Rebbe would hold a sikh. And as the years went on, it got longer and longer. It was like a mini fabring in these sikhs, 35, 40 minutes. And this is weird. No, in the shul. Every night they were spoken in the shul. I think the second year they thought that if they were speaking every night, I'll set it up in the middle of the shul, but there was fabring in place, and everyone will sit, and it'll become a kind of fabring. And so Rebbe went to his fabring place and stood with his hands like this. This is no standard, and they thought Rebbe was going to sit. Rebbe stood with his hands like this and spoke the whole sikh, and they realized that Rebbe doesn't want fabring, but it's a sikh every night. And there's a book called Mayone HaYeshua, which has all those sikhs, because during those nights, all the beauty we have of the Yishbizin, the connection between the Baal Shem Tov and Avraham Avinu and then Maggid Yitzchak, a lot of them come from these nights that would speak about the Yishbizin and then the Chitas of the day, the Damam of the day, and so on. So we're looking here at one of those sikhs. Of course, they're the year Tashmim Ches, 87, I guess, not 88, 87. 87 would have come in December. 88 would have been in December. There was two themes throughout this Tishrei. It's an unbelievably, like, it's not just uplifting, it's like jolting. Read this over, it's like you feel like you have to. Two themes: Simcha, Tashmim Ches that I spoke about, Shnas Tismach, the year of Simcha, and HAKHEL. Again and again and again, it was pushing and pushing and pushing. The Simcha part, some of the Chassidim were a little bit nervous. When the Rabbi were too freilach, especially during Tishrei, especially in Rosh Hashanah, which never was Tashmim Ches. At the end of the Farbrengen in Rosh Hashanah, Rebbe stood up and danced on Rosh Hashanah, which is very unusual for the Rebbe to be that kind of freilach, that kind of joy on Rosh Hashanah. So some of them were a little bit nervous about what was going to go down that year, and Chaf B'Shvat was that year. Like Tashmim Ches, there was a lot of joy, and then the heart attack happened. And so. But at any rate, the sikhs are still there, full of this message of Simcha. Okay, so we're looking at page 219 in Teres Menachem Namches Chelik 1, that's Tishrei. And we're looking at Sif Hey. Yesh L'Haisif. We might add the Pratis in more detail. And again, HAKHEL, with respect to the HAKHEL, HaChidush HaMiyuchad, the Chag HaSukkos, Hashata, which is the unique feature of this year's Sukkos, because it's the year of HAKHEL, through the means of blasting trumpets. I think this night was Motzei Shabbos. Yeah, it's Motzei Shabbos and Motzei Yom Tov here.
Note.
Yeah, it was Motzei Shabbos this year. And so we're speaking about now that Shabbos is over, you can get out and dance with trumpets and music and whatnot. So adding to this idea of blasting the trumpets. Isa b'Tosefta. Tosefta says, this is one of the documented events of HAKHEL. Someone actually says, I was there and remember what happened. Isn't this Tosefta? Oisei Yom, that day, says the Tosefta. It's in Soita. The HAKHEL, that day of HAKHEL. Kohanim Ondim, Gdorim, Pirtzos. The Kohanim would stand in the court, in the openings and the gates. Hainu, this is, says the Rebbe, Makoim Shofar Hesya, public spaces. Back to the Tosefta, and they had golden trumpets in their hands. This is the Kohanim. Toikin Marin v'Toikin. They would do Tkiya Trua Tkiya, blasting the shofar, to announce to everybody that this is happening. Kol Kohen Shem B'Yodeh Chatzaitzos. Any Kohen which doesn't have a trumpet, they would say, Doimish in Kohen, he's probably not a Kohen. Everybody was doing this. If he's not, probably not a Kohen. By Yom, on that day, Rabbi Tarfon said, I saw. So here we see this is one of the events of someone documenting I was there by HAKHEL. Rabbi Tarfon, who is a little bit old, same generation as Rabbi Kiva, so student of Rabbi Yechanan and Zakkai, who lived during the Korban, lived during the destruction. So Rabbi Tarfon said, I saw someone who was lame, someone who was limp. I saw him standing and blasting the shofar, the trumpets. Based on this, they would say that even someone who's lame is allowed to blast trumpets in the Beis Mikdash. This is the Tosefta. Says there are a number of different details to be derived from this little episode in Tosefta. Aleph number 1, blasting of the trumpets. It's an obligation on each and every individual kohen. Even if without this individual kohen, there are tens of other kohenim that are blasting the trumpets. So that even if he doesn't blast the trumpet, the publicity of the event is not going to be lacking if he doesn't blow the shofar, if he doesn't blow the trumpet. There's hundreds of kohenim. Okay, so he stayed home that day. Nothing's going to change in the outcome if he doesn't blast the trumpets. Phase number 2. The base of blasting the trumpets is not only by the kohenim whose week it was or day it was to work that day in the Beis Mikdash, right? The kohenim were divided into groups. Each group would work another week in the Beis Mikdash, and then those groups were divided into 7. Each day another, what's called Beis Av, another family. So even a kohen who wasn't on duty that day would still have to blast the trumpets. Not only was it not limited to the kohen from that day, it wasn't even limited to the kohenim of that week. The trumpets had to be sounded by every single kohen who was present in Yerushalayim, even if his shift is some other time. Even a kohen who is a balmum, he's got a blemish in roilah by the cloud, and therefore is not fit for serving in the Beis Mikdash at all by halacha. Not only is he disqualified from offering actual karbanos, even avodas that are preparation for the bringing of the karban, by avodas abois the achim hemshech lakrava, or avodas that are post the actual hakrava, right? I think what I was referring to here is the fact that there are 4 parts of the, it's in Rambam the last week or so, and people talking about there are 4 avodas that are part of the actual karban, right? The shchita, kabbalas adam, halacha, and zrika, right? And then there's like the actual hakrava, the bringing. I don't know if anybody was referring to here, tell me, because for example, preparing the wood to go into the mizbeach, balmum is allowed to. They were saying this person is disqualified not only from being a karban, but even from things that are preparation for the karban. I'm not sure which things they were speaking about. Anyway. So even this person, Takeya Maria Takeya, this person is also sounding the shofar. Ka'omar is mentioned above in the text of the Tosefta, Shafilu Chiger. Even someone who's lame, must stand and blast the shofar. That's point 2. Point 3. Sounding the trumpets is something that is relevant to his very being a kohen. After they got to the point, any kohen doesn't have a trumpet in his hand, they would say, he's probably not a kohen. Meaning to say, like it's not possible for such a fact. That a kohen is not blasting a trumpet. And therefore, obviously, have uvda, the fact he doesn't have a trumpet, must be because he's not a kohen. It's impossible for a kohen not to be excitedly trumpeting HAKHEL. And if he's not, then I guess he's not a kohen. So those are the 3 points that I was saying here. 1, even if I feel irrelevant, even if the kohen feels, or even if the reality, he feels, The reality is he makes no difference because there's tens of other kohanim blasting the trumpet. It's not as if there's one or two people who aren't going to know about the HAKHEL event because he's not blasting the shofar. It's a trumpet. No one's going to know. Number one. Number two, it's every kohen, even someone who's invalid. It's not his time to work in the Beis Mikdash, and he's an invalid. Not an invalid. He's a balmun. Just look at that. And he can't work in the Beis Mikdash. He still has to blast shofar, trumpets. And number three, if he doesn't, this fact that he's sounding the trumpet is tied up with his essential status as a kohen.
Maybe am I right that the fact that the Rabbi says, or the Tosefta says, that there are tens of other kohanim. That's just in his base of. All the kohanim in Yerushalayim are more than tens. There were thousands.
Yeah, the Rabbi says it's the Rebbe's words, not the Tosefta's words. But
in that one, he's referring to it being not in his time, right?
Oh, maybe tens means in his group, and then how much more so? It's possible because you're right. There's probably thousands.
It also says kohen shouldn't be at the
An individual.
Any kohen. A kohen who doesn't have a trumpet in his hand.
Which can kohen. Any. Yeah. We're going to see right in the Sikha, Rabbi Raskin from Kutzimuk said, he says that the feeling of the Chassidim at the time, when they heard the Rebbe say this, was, if you're not doing HAKHEL, you're not a Chassid. Daim Masha'en a Kohen, switch the word Kohen to Chassid. That's how they felt. That the Rebbe meant when he said this. I mean, we're going to hear the words and we'll see why they felt that way. Okay, Vav. From here we have our instruction of the manner in which we should be involved in HAKHEL nowadays. By prefacing. Even though it's true that at the time, sounding of the trumpets was the kohanim specifically. This is comparable to the way we treat every other service in the Beis Mikdash. Nowadays, nasim, these avodas in the Beis Mikdash are done in our spiritual service of Hashem. By every Jew, it's not limited to kohen. So the Beis Mikdash time was indeed limited to the kohen, but what we do today is not limited to the kohen. It's all of us. For example, when it comes to the central avodah of the Beis Mikdash, which is karbanos. So the halacha is, Gemara says, tefillah is connected to Midin Tiknum. Our tefillos have been established to correspond to the daily basic karbanos in the Beis Mikdash. Hainus means to say, Shavodas karbanos she'esen nasis Beis Mikdash. Adei kohenim tinim dafke. This kind of service in the Beis Mikdash, karbanos, that would have been done specifically by kohenim who are not balei mun, who are completely perfect kohenim. They're the only ones who are valid. In Mishmar during their week, on their specific day, lahem, that's for them. So only a select few people would have actually done the actual carbon in the Beis Mikdash time. But yet, it's achieved nowadays. I did kol ha'chol Yisrael by every single Jew. And nashim ataf, men, women, and children, every single day. And not just once a day, but hein b'shachas, both in the morning, corresponding to the morning carbon, hein b'mincha in the afternoon. Connected Tomet Shabbat Abayim corresponding to the afternoon carbon. And likewise in the evening, connected Avodim and corresponding to the Emurim, which would have burnt on the carbon on the Mizbeach all night. And on days that they would have brought an extra carbon on the Beis Mikdash, known as a Musaf, we also daven Musaf. So something that would have been done by select few kohanim once a year or once whatever is done now by every Jew multiple times a day. Through all the Eden, davening multiple times a day, that whatever spiritual achievement the carbon would have done in the Beis Mikdash is achieved now by our davening. Does that go from within this alone? Our literally means let our we will pay off the cows with our lips. That's the words of the prophet. Meaning, through our lips, tefillah, our prayer, our davening, we achieve the bringing of the cows, which is the most expensive and best of karbanos, in such a way that I translated neshama as we will pay, like nishalem, but it could also come from the expression of shleimus. Shleimus also meaning perfection. So the most perfect possible carbon done by the select few kohanim once a while is achieved by every single Jew in our davening. So we move on. And this is understood. The same thing is true of every Yom Tov. All the details of what would have been done to celebrate those Yom Tovim in the Beis Mikdash, they exist on a spiritual plane nowadays as well. What, whether we're talking about Pesach, Shavuos, or Sukkot. Chag HaSukkos Hashata and Chag HaSukkos this year. So one of the avodas in the Beis Hamikdash would have been Gam Inyan HaKhel. HAKHEL would have been the thing that they would have done then. Along with the part of HAKHEL, which is blasting the trumpets, to gather everybody. Okay, so that also has to be achieved today by us. Every part of Yom Tov in the Beis Hamikdash is being achieved by us. We have all kinds of ritual to recreate and to achieve that which this Kabbalah has achieved. So if HAKHEL, including trumpets, would have been done then, that also has to be done now. And therefore, and just like it is with every other element of the Beis Hamikdash, the obligation today is not just for Kohanim, for every single Jew. What does he have to do? He has to inform, announce, and publicize. Original Yiddish. Halten in ein Sturmen. Stand in a continuous state of storming. Loosely translated. Stand in a continuous state of just pounding and pounding and pounding. Gather the people together. HAKHEL. What Prati says here. In more detail, all 3 points mentioned above from the Tosefta apply to us as well. Number 1, the obligation for everyone to publicize and announce about HAKHEL. The Prati is incumbent on each and every individual. Meaning to say, even though he's part of a whole community. He's standing here in 770, and presumably that's what I was trying to say. You're part of a community of Lubavitchers. You're standing right here in 770. Everybody here in the shul, all of us, we're all standing with our trumpets and blasting. But he can't, as an individual, stand on the side. He too has to take a trumpet of gold and to he must be announcing about HAKHEL. And just like he never doesn't spell this out. But l'chura, just like the Kohen assumed, okay, the job's going to get, not assumed, he was correct. The job is going to get done without me, so I don't have to. Same here, everybody's doing it. I also have to? No, it's a on every single one. Number 2, the obligation to announce and publicize HAKHEL in a is not dependent on him being a perfect Jew. Shekain, because even when his personal avodah in Torah mitzvah is not perfect, to the point he's spiritually limp. To say he isn't a tamim. Tamim means a complete non-balmum. So they're right here using the phrases of tamim tiyim Hashem lekach, person's wholesome in his service with Hashem. So he's not there. He's not fulfilling the 248 commandments that correspond to 248 limbs. He's not perfect in the 365 negative commandments, which correspond to 365 veins. Because he missed out, he's missing in one mitzvah, a pagamba, or he has some sort of blemish, imperfection in his mitzvah. This is a quote from, I've seen the footnote from the Kota Torah, that it's like he's spiritually lacking a limb. He's spiritually lame because of his imperfection. He nonetheless has to, and he could and is obligated to publicize about HAKHEL. I mentioned before, even the limp has to stand with his trumpet and blast. publicizing about HAKHEL, who Inyan and Agel close of Vidose. This stands and is relevant to all this other avodah. At the cut to the point, Shekol Kohen Shem B'Yodech HaTzeitzis, any Kohen who doesn't have a trumpet, he's probably not a Kohen. Full chassid, all of his avodah is there, but he's not storming HAKHEL. Probably not a Kohen. Very, very strong language. Why does it indicate there's something missing at the core, at the center? Because his creation is to serve Hashem. Everything is created for nothing but Hashem's glory. And this happens This happens because he's fulfilling the words of Hashem, which is halacha. Halacha also includes, so this is Meridik. When we say that a person has to fulfill the word of Hashem, which is halacha, that includes enactments and customs that have been accepted by Jews. They have the full strength of a biblical commandment. Usually this is said about things like Simchat Torah. Hakafah Simchat Torah is a minhag, but all Jews do it. It's being accepted by all Jews. Okay, so it's an obligation. They were saying this applies to HAKHEL. When they get down, in our case, HAKHEL, getting involved in HAKHEL. Sharei in parentheses. We don't have to have more, the halachic definition is that it has to be spread amongst all Jews. And then it becomes a establishment. Says the Rebbe, that's 3 days is enough. For 3 days, and for the last 3 days, this is the third day of Sukkot. Makilim, the Beis HaKnesses, we've been gathering in the Shul and the Beis Medrash right here in 770. Mikdash Ma'at, which is a miniature Beis Mikdash. Anashim Nashim Tap, there's men, women, and children here. And we are encouraging this idea to fear Hashem, which is what the message of HAKHEL. As has been affected, as we've already achieved, and many have already been stirred. Most of the people here in the shul have been stirred. We assume that all Jews are good people. And it's our strong hope that this effect continue to last afterwards. Like the Pasuk says about HAKHEL, that the effect should be all the days you're living on the land. I know as ever saying, if I've been storming about it, it has the weight of a minhag, and therefore it has the weight of mitzvah. And if there, meaning there's one thing which is the beer that Rabbi has about HAKHEL. Why HAKHEL is so important? Because it's just serving Hashem, whatever it is. Here the Rabbi gets to a very simple beer. Strip away what they were trying to say is because I've been instructing about it, and therefore if I've been talking about this the last 3 days and you're not doing it, we can't call you a kohen. We can't call you a chassid. That's what they're saying. Everything's like giving a whole explanation why HAKHEL is the center of avodah. What's the explanation he gives? Because the yid has to do halacha, and halacha includes takanas and minhagim, and the most recent takana and minhag is HAKHEL. Why? Because I've been talking about it the last 3 days. It's essentially what they're saying. It's very strong. And therefore, if he's not fulfilling his obligation to publicize HAKHEL, he's probably not a kohen. Underlined explanation point. In simple terms, with practical application. With all the shtudim of HAKHEL of last 3 nights. So the third night of Sukkot. Including yesterday's message that makes reference to the sikha he said yesterday, which I copied, but the next page is the sikha from the day before, with the section that I was referring to. I don't know if I'll have time to get to it, but I urge you to read it. And yesterday's Chumash, so the second night of Sukkot, the message was that day's Chumash, which is the Einei Kol Yisrael, the last words of the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu broke luchos in the presence of all the Yidden. And then took Torah then that everybody has to be able to look at you and see, here goes HAKHEL. That was the message that you can see. There was, look at the language, it's incredible language. He's a Yom Kippur Yid, he's a Shabbos Yid, he's a Torah Mitzvah Yid. But the Iker of Iker, he has to look at him and say, this is a HAKHEL Yid. You look at him, everybody has to see this is a HAKHEL Jew. as Rabbi says here, when we look at this person, we see clearly he HAKHEL. Yehudi shel HAKHEL, a HAKHEL Yid. Here goes a HAKHEL Jew. Translate it as you will. Shabbos. So it's coming Motzei Shabbos now, the third night of Sukkot. So let's be a whole renewed and invigorated excitement and enthusiasm for HAKHEL. At the Atki b'chatzotzis, now we can get to blast the trumpets, because on Shabbos he couldn't. Hainus means to say, not just enough to hold the trumpet in his hand. Not just to blast one sound. Tkiya through tkiya. To announce, to publicize, and to tell everybody that now is the time. Now is the time to gather everybody together. And seemingly, someone could come and claim, what do you want from me? He's standing on the side. Maybe my doesn't understand what is going on here. I don't get this. There was talking what the person might say. And he thinks, like, what do you need me for? Like, this whole place is going crazy. HAKHEL, like, what do you need me for? Besides me, there's tons of people here standing with their trumpets, they're blasting, they're sounding. What's going to add if I join? The success is happening. Moreover, I'm an older gentleman. It's not becoming for me. It's not becoming for him, this person's things. That in the middle, that all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, he's going to stand up and start blasting a trumpet. I'm an old man, it's not for me. Moreover, he's going to announce in this trumpet blasting that he's doing in the middle of the night. He's going to make an announcement about something everybody knows already. What do you want from me? People have already been studying about this for 3 nights already. I have to now make an announcement in the middle of the night. What do you want from me? You say to me, moreover, I've already belittled myself. For the last few days, I've already, denigrated myself to join this whole brouhaha. But now, I'm already tired. I want to rest a little bit. But I have to think about Malav Malka. It's Motzei Shabbos. I have to catch up on my chitas and my Rambam. I have so many things to do. Okay, I did it already. I was Yitzhak Even. There's a bunch of other people doing it. I'm going home. Yeah, this is the kind of language you don't get in the edited talks. It's, you can see that it was, anyway. You would think, if you didn't know the date, you'd think that it was like a young, fresh Rebbe who became Rebbe like an hour ago. This is 1988. 87. That was how old? How old are they in 87? 89-year-old man. And everybody's talking about old men who want to stand on the side. Get off your laurels. You think it doesn't matter because everybody doesn't matter. You do. It's very difficult not to. Okay, let's finish the sikha here, and then I urge you to go back to the next pages and read further Rebbe's language about being a HAKHEL Yid. To this, he would respond to him. Is that is balalta arvis? Get off ma'ariv. Connected hektar chalav and which correspond to the things that are burned on the mizbeach overnight. Shall I speak or lahakar b'yayim, which they couldn't do during the day? Kolema, I mean to say, what is it trying to say here? You just finished doing something the kohanim are supposed to do. Then came, and if so, how could you go on peacefully? I'm good to go home. You're going to talk about all the wonderful things in the world. And you're going to be ready. They're going to ask you, you're going to do a favor. You're going to do me a favor that I was saying. You're also going to respond something nice about HAKHEL. Where's your golden trumpet? You're going to do me a favor and do a little HAKHEL thing because I asked. Okay, you just finished down in mind. What's wrong with you? It's not enough that you can tell me at home I have Spartan and talk about what they used to do in the Beis Mikdash. The same is moreover. In bosom, he has a trumpet in his jacket. Connected Levi corresponding to his heart. All the tricks and all the explanations, not going to work. It's a halacha. It's a clear and outright halacha. Just which sif in Shulchan Aruch does this halacha? It's right here. It's a halacha, clear halacha. You have to take trumpets into your hands. More importantly, to blast it. Not just one blast. You have to blast through tkiya. And as mentioned above, it's not enough that other people are sounding the shofar. If his father is busy doing HAKHEL, the Rabbi, his teacher, like Bnoi, or his son, or his grandson, not enough. And the kohen is not holding a trumpet. You could see what Rabbi Raskin said, what he said. He's not a kohen. He's doing all wonderful things, but a chassid is not. And this is something we can measure very, very clearly. Key, because with respect to the last few days, he argues, I've been busy with HAKHEL. I've been speaking about it. I've been doing it coldly, but at least I've been doing it. So maybe he put a little bit of warmth and a little bit of excitement into his talk about HAKHEL. Okay, good. But now that it's Motzei Shabbos, now is the test. Are you holding the golden trumpet in your hand, the Tekiah, Maria Tekiah, and you're blasting it? And if not, Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, we say, Doime she'ein kohen.
The story of
remarkable.
AREN laser makes a lot more sense.
Now you're getting it.
Like I can't sleep.
You get
This video is going around, by the way. It's very.
a video of on laser. Or this sikha.
Yeah.
Never pounds it, pounding the table. Like you see the stand shaking when it says it. It's very, very powerful. So I urge you to go to the next page and see what Deborah talks about being a HAKHEL yid. Also very strong language like that. A wonderful day, Yidden.